Hey y'all, I'm the captain, and this is Sailing on the Spectrum, where I talk about the challenges growing up with autism spectrum disorder. Welcome aboard. Today I'm going to tackle a really weighty subject, social media. It's a big thing, and it certainly is controversial. Not because it's because there's so many things about it that are good, and at the same time it has a lot of things about it that can be bad. I heard it said before somewhere that something's capacity for good can be directly proportionate to its capacity for bad or evil. And it's like, I guess social media kind of is illustrative of that, because you can have a great experience, connecting with people. You may connect with people in a way that enables you to have so many different connections. It enables you to I guess keep up with all kinds of events and stuff like that. At the same time, it has the potential to be insanely destructive if you just don't know how to understand and keep it in its place. When you're on the autism spectrum, you're definitely someone who is what you would say emotionally vulnerable. You have the need to connect with people, and it can be a challenge to do that, especially in person, but at the same time it's something we really need. And if you're on social media and you're on the autism spectrum, you can definitely enjoy being able to express yourself, let's say through words that you type on a chat, maybe a video you put up on YouTube. Of course, that's not really a natural fit maybe for those on the autism spectrum, but I'm doing it, but it is something you can do. You can be have a good, have your pictures up, have your Facebook profile. You can look and feel like you're cool, to everybody, because you have a name, you have a picture, you have a profile, just like others, and you kind of feel more like you belong. Whereas I guess maybe out in the real world, you kind of sense that maybe you don't belong as much. And so maybe in some senses, social media can be some kind of a way of, I guess, looking at something and feel like you have more status, have more belonging, maybe feel less inferior. And it's good to want that. At the same time, if you're turning to social media to get that, you are opening yourself up to the trap of feeling like you have to always be getting the good, always feel like you have to have only positive things come out of your social media. You want to be able to get those likes. You want people to notice you. You might want certain people to comment on you. You're just hoping that, you get noticed by certain people, and that somehow if the feedback that you're not getting on there isn't quite coming all the time, then you're worried, you're afraid that there's something going on the other end of the line, that you fear the worst. And when you're on the autism spectrum, that can be very easy to do. You can definitely spiral. I know that for me, social media is definitely can be a source of getting to know some people that I wouldn't have gotten to know otherwise. Maybe not very many, which is fine, because I think you can get to know a ton of people, and you can have a ton of friends on your social media that you never really connect with in real life. And maybe the few that you do, if you're not careful, you may end up connecting with them mainly on there and not actually going out of your way to meet up with them physically in person. And that's really what is needed. If you're on the autism spectrum, that may seem like it's a challenge, but I know for me, that's something I still need. That's something I still long to have. I long to be able to be around people, to have camaraderie. And social media, the question to ask is it really, does it become an end in itself? more than it does a means to an end. You know, and that end being able to connect with people and hopefully be able to have the verbal back and forth in person, you know, that everybody kind of needs to have. You know, it's just it's something that social media can't take the place of. And if it starts to, or if it does, or it's getting to do that, you may end up finding that you're going to be sinking, and then you're not going to realize that. You're going to think that you just need to be back on your social media in, you know, posting more, getting more likes, getting more comments, getting more attention on there. And when you do get it, you end up just wanting to get it more and keep the ball rolling, and then eventually you don't get what you want out of it, and you start to sink emotionally. There's a very good article on helpguide.org. I'll probably put a link to it, but it's talks about social media and mental health, and it just seems to kind of lay down the basics pretty good. Has a lot of good observations. I actually recently, I should point out, I just got to where I was kind of getting in a spot where I just was not feeling too good on the inside. And I'd been on social media and I was able to interact with friends and stuff, but I just wasn't, I kind of was at a point where I just wasn't getting what I needed out of it. I felt like I had some things to work out in myself, you know, just some things, and just some life things. And, you know, going on social media is kind of a distraction from that, and trying to get good, positive feedback from your friends on there might be good, but it doesn't really, it'll cause what's really bothering me on the inside to go on, to not get dealt with. And about a couple weeks ago, I just kind of checked out for a bit on all my social medias. Obviously, I'll be getting back on them now when I'm getting this video up. But I think it was really necessary to just take that break. It's not because I'm dropping off the planet or I'm shutting people out. It's not burning bridges. It's not doing any of those things. Those people will still be around, and then, you know, it's not like you can see everybody you know and love all the time. I mean, I have my family and I see them every day, but just because I don't see others every day doesn't mean I don't love them. And there's others I still want to see, and, you know, it's just but it's been good at least to have the social media side of things just eliminated, just for on a temporary basis, to really get off of that roller coaster, you know, and just come and just, you know, so that my head can just get right. You know, one thing they talk about in this article from Help Guide, they talk about anxiety, obviously, and depression being, you know, definitely the cycle can come about. You also can be vulnerable to cyberbullying. I think I'm not as sensitive to cyberbullying. I think people who are more prominent social media users probably are easier targets for it, and need to, you know, filter that out and get past that, and have a thicker skin when it comes to that. But still, the fact that people bully people online is sad. And when you take yourself away from that on social media, that's not a sign that you're weak, or that you're failing, or that you're just a loser. It's not like you are invalid as a person because somebody treats you as an invalid person on, you know, when you're on this thing, or when you're on this thing. I mean, those are devices, and yeah, they have information and they provide an outlet by which people can connect. But if what's coming on there is somebody, you know, who's teasing you or ridiculing you or insulting you, and to me, I guess it's maybe better just to say, look, I can just block that person, or I can just ignore them. You know, I can appreciate that because I've dealt with real bullies, physical bullies, when I was growing up. So, I mean, you know, just dealing with somebody online who's just typing some nonsense at you on with a keyboard on a computer screen, you know, I think you can handle that pretty easy. At the same time, it's sad that there are those who try to start, rumors and gossip. You know, we have such an information savvy technology at our disposal with these things, and with the internet, and with all social media, and with just even the news becomes, you know, absorbed in that. And so people are hearing all these things about the news, and they're getting information, but it's so hard to ascertain what's really solid information from other things that are just nothing but rumors that have gained strength that really are probably misinformation. And, you know, you really just have to be careful. And sometimes you just need to tune out. You need to take steps to get away from that, so that you can, you know, hear yourself think again. It seems like nobody wants anybody to think anymore. It seems like, especially the people who are like the information giants, you know, just are, they'll get information out and they'll tell you about anything, but it'll just, you know, the din of the drumbeat, the insane barrage, you know, just makes it so you can't really think and process. And definitely, if you're on the autism spectrum, if you have sensory issues, it can be difficult, especially if with sensory issues that come at you at the rate that this thing can bring stuff at you. A phone, a smartphone, can definitely cause you sensory overload if you allow it to. I know that for me, that can lead to anxiety if I'm not careful, or it can lead to distractions from just doing other things that I probably need to do, and then those things build on my mind, and I might worry about them getting done, and then I'll just need something else to distract me again, so I'll pick this up again, you know. And it's just not a good cycle. I also have FOMO, which is we call fear of missing out. It's you know, something that if you see people that you connect with online doing this, that, and the other thing, and you feel, you feel like, hey, that's cool, wish I were there, and you just feel left out. And then sometimes you also feel that you need to be sure that you're keeping up with the chat, or keeping up with the being, so you can comment on something, you know, early to get noticed, and other things like that, and feel like if you don't, then others aren't going to notice you, and you're going to, you know, just drop off the planet kind of in their eyes. And that can never be a realistic or a healthy thing. But I know that's something that is definitely easy for my mind to, is a loop that's easy for my mind to get into. There's this theory that's actually an economic theory called the Law of Diminishing Returns. Basically, you put more in it, without going into too much, it just basically means you put more into something, and at some point the return you get on it can be less and less and less. In the psychological world, you know, that can be applied when you're over dedicated to something, and I would say it probably could apply when you're dealing with something like maybe an addiction. And people can easily get addicted to these things if you're not careful. They can get addicted to social media, and they can it's where basically they start to get in on this so much and more, and then they, at a certain point, it doesn't really give them the positive experience that they had hoped, thought it did at one point, and then they start to try to, you know, do more and more to get noticed, more and more comments, more and more content, more and more stuff to get likes, you know. And you want to connect with people. You want people to see and benefit from what you put out there. I want you to benefit from what I put out here. But at the same time, if I'm doing it and I just want, and I think that my validation and worth depends on how much of that I get out of this, it's just going to eventually decrease, and the returns on it and the benefits of it that I'm supposed to be getting from it are just going to get less and less and less. But I'm going to end up trying to go fishing more and more and more. And that's kind of what addiction can do. It's can be that way with addiction to a medication, to alcohol or drugs. It's just, that's kind of a principle that I really believe is at the heart of it a lot of the time. And basically, I know this article on help.org has some pretty helpful ideas about how to, I guess, things that, can be bad. It talks about reducing time online. And I'll tell you, I probably have a fair amount of time online, but even so, I don't as much as probably some others do. But it just goes to show you, it's just the nature of what it's doing to you that you need to keep in mind. Obviously, they say one is spending time with offline friends. Obviously, that basically means spending time with real people. If you're able to get in touch with people and be with them for real as a result of being on here, that's great. As long as those are healthy people and they're not dangerous people, and you're able to, understand when, people are probably not safe. But I would say more than anything, one that stuck out to me was to express gratitude. Express gratitude. That seems insane, crazy to think that, that would have anything to do with modifying your social media use. But basically, yeah, it means, they say that you need to be able to take time to reflect. That's what I was talking about, and all the information we're getting and interactions that we're having on here, we're not able to process and think and reflect. I know I need my time to reflect, and I think maybe the break I've been taking lately has really enabled me to do that, and that's been very, very needful. And I think now that I have done that, I'll be able to be back on the social media grid, still monitoring myself, but I'll be able to do it much better. But another thing is to, be mindful. It says to practice mindfulness. That just means basically live in your present moment, live in your, understand where you are in the time-space continuum, Another is to actually says to volunteer, it just basically means be in situations where you're willing to help other people, do things for others, like not just online necessarily, but in actual life, in your day-to-day goings about. Those are things that really help you in ways that just being on here eventually won't. The well's going to dry up if you're not careful. But if you have good and healthy connections on here, that's good. Focus on those, and don't understand that it will not be that many. Don't go by how many friends you have. I used to be on Facebook. I'm not anymore. I'm not judging you if you are. Just know that for me, I got off Facebook a few years ago, and part of it was because I had probably literally about 600 or so friends on there, on my friend list. Let's just face it, I didn't, all but maybe, I would say maybe about 15 of those could really be considered good friends out of all that list. And a lot of them were just people that I'd known at one point, that I'd gotten to know and just crossed paths with and had friended on there, and that I just never really was in touch with in any real way anymore. And just having the feed of all those people coming across my screen day in and day out will just get nuts. It would just make you feel more lonely. You're like, yeah, here's all these people I knew, and now I don't anymore. It's so sad. Why would you need that? I just don't need that in my life. And, let's not forget, of course, the terrible way in which I think, yes, Facebook has contributed to some degree to fights and culture wars that have been stoked in our society, in a lot of ways. I mean, although that has to do with just the hearts of human beings as much as anything is to do with Facebook itself. But, the fact that it could, be so much of it, spiral out of control so easily on something like this, doesn't help. I'm still on Instagram. I still have, some followers, but I don't have anywhere near as many as I friends or followers as I did, and I don't follow nearly as many people as I would have on Facebook, and that's fine. I'm happy with who I have. I'm thankful for who I have. I'm thankful for who I have in my life. I'm thankful for who I can look, forward to having in, eventually, or I'm just thankful, and that's really what it's all about. And you're not going to be fostering that if you're just constantly trying to get on the loop that this creates. Let's be clear, people on the autism spectrum being vulnerable can certainly have some benefits from connecting on social media, but because they're vulnerable, just like a lot of teens are vulnerable, it has the potential for people to abuse and misuse it in ways that can harm those who are vulnerable. And you've got to be mindful of that. You've got to be mindful of what it's doing to you and what you're doing to yourself. So just keep that in mind. And the bottom line is, I would say, if there's any advice I have to anyone who may be having an issue with what they're getting on social media and feeling like it's affecting them, feeling like it's maybe increasing anxiety or contributing to some down moods or even depression or other things, the main bit of advice, best advice I can give you is 3 words: take a break. Take a break. That doesn't mean you're burning bridges. That doesn't mean you are cutting off anything or anybody. You just need time to get in your own headspace, to understand where you are in the time-space continuum, and to allow, especially if you're on the autism spectrum like me, allow the sensory inputs to just get filtered to a point where they're manageable. Because if you keep coming back on here, it's just going to overwhelm it more and more, and you're going to be backlogged. You're going to be completely it's going to be a log jam. So, just keep that in mind. And I'm just happy to say that even though I struggle, I'm not afraid to at least say that I do. I'm not afraid to say that, hey, just because I have a house and a good family doesn't mean that I can never have times where I just don't feel content. And I guess maybe some of it has to do with this getting out of control, this thing. Now that I've done this for myself, I feel good. I feel good knowing that I've done what I need to for myself. And yeah, I'll be back on the social media grid, but I'm not going to be pressured to feel like I've got to keep the ride going for so long, to the point where it ends up getting me in that bad spot again. So just remember that for yourself, and understand if you're on the autism spectrum, you can struggle with those things, and that's okay. And you can do something right for yourself to help you get back to where you can function better. That's something we all need. And I'll have a link in the description below of that article, helpful article I talked about. I'll also have a link in my blog. I'm trying to get another one written up here for too long, but you know what? That's another thing. I don't need to pressure myself. But hey, what I have up already is there. So yeah, check out my blog, check out the helpful links I have, and check out my other videos, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, this is the Captain, and I'll see you on our next voyage. Bye.